Welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Freedom Teachings video series.
Robert here. Welcome to another edition of Brutally Honest Tuesdays and the second video in a multi-part video series that are designed to be short. Ripples in your pond, shake things up, put cracks in your foundation as we move towards a different and truthful with a capital T relationship with prosperity, abundance, and money. So in this second episode, if you haven't watched the first one and you found your way to this, wherever you are, on my blog, on YouTube, wherever else you may be watching this, this is a sequential thing. Each episode builds on the next. So this is episode 2. If you haven't already watched episode 1, I invite you to do that. It should be easy to find it wherever you happen to be, or contact my office if it isn't. So in this second episode, again, each of the parts of this series on prosperity, abundance, and money is designed to be short sound bites, shake you up, set things into motion, not be complete thoughts, not deliver a particular anything, but we're building towards an everything through this sequence of videos. So in this video, what I want to do is ask you a question. How much money do you really need? How much money do you really need? Now here's why I ask you the question. Years ago, as I was using the tools and I was knocking out cloud cover and I was in the process of experiencing true transformation with capital T's on my unique journey. And if you don't know what I mean by using the tools and knocking out cloud cover, you're new to me and to the teachings I share. You'll see something on the screen right now. You can go to that URL that you'll see, register for a free training, and it'll ground you in the basics of what it is that I share. But many, many years ago, when I was really exploring this, and when myths and lies, illusions, and stories about money and wealth and abundance and prosperity were being shaken up and they were being exchanged for a direct experience of truth as it relates to these things, truth with a capital T, I did an interesting exercise. Now, the numbers that I'm going to use may be really big for you, they may be really small for you, it doesn't matter. It's the point that I'm trying to make. I was sitting in a year, and I went back to the previous year. And in that previous year, I was married, I had 2 kids, and I took a look and I said, in that last year that just passed, the last calendar year, I did absolutely everything that I wanted to do in the way that I wanted to do it, for myself and for my family. No limits, no restrictions, anything that the desire came up to do. Not every fantasy, whatever, but everything that came up last year I did. How much money did it take? And I actually went back, and it was kind of tricky to do, but I came up with a number of how much it took in that year to do everything that I wanted to do at the level that I wanted to do, which involved flying first class. If I traveled somewhere, you know, there was a lot of what you might call luxury and other kinds of things involved with it. But so I added it all up, and I realized for that year, to do everything that I wanted to do for myself and my family, and again, this number may seem really big or really small or the same as yours or whatever, it was something like $275,000. Now again, that number doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if your number would be bigger or your number would be smaller. The point is, whatever the number is, and in that case, it was $275,000 US. That was to do everything I wanted to do for myself and my family. No. Why would I need more? This is the question that appeared in my mind in what I now call inner space. Why would I need more than that? Now, if you're like I used to be, and many of the people that I interact with on a friendship level or playing the role of writer, teacher, coach, facilitator, whatever you want to call it, it's one of these things, like I said in the last video, that we just never really stop to think about. We just get so hypnotized and mesmerized by more, bigger, bigger, bigger. I got to get this goal, I got to get this goal, I got to get this goal, that we don't stop to think about some of these simple, practical, very important kinds of things. Now, if you and I were sitting across from each other having a cup of coffee and we went through this thing, and I said, why would you need more? You know, or I did this at an audience when I was doing a workshop, the odds are people would come back and they would say things like, well, you got to save for a rainy day. You got to have a reserve because you never know when, you know, there might be a slowdown or a stock market crash or your income might drop or whatever. Okay. Or somebody might say, I got to plan for retirement. I got to be saving towards retirement, or I need to be saving towards being able to do bigger things. And so, yes, Robert, you were able to do all of that for $275, but What if you want to do something down the line and it's a big expense and you got to put the money aside? There's all these kinds of things that would get dumped out. But where I live, in what I call ultimate freedom, with the sun shining in and with a truthful, with a capital T, relationship to everything that's going on, all of that stuff falls apart because it gets taken care of when ultimate freedom awakens, to use my language. It gets taken care of when you knock out of the cloud cover. If you need to have money for retirement, the money for retirement, whatever amount it needs to be, will be there. And if it involves you putting money away every month, fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If you need to have money for the rainy day, if you need to build up money to do whatever, it'll take care of itself. I can't go into all that now. That's not the purpose of this video. But this is the thing, this is the drop in your pond. This is the I want to shake you up with a little bit. This is what I want to poke on. This is a myth, a lie, illusion, and story, a hypnotic, mesmerizing kind of a story. Have you ever even actually taken a look at this? And maybe you have, as part of a certain exercise that you did in some sort of a prosperity workshop or working with a life coach or whatever else, where they had you sit down and say, okay, if you could do everything, how much would it cost? But I just want to poke at this. In this second section, second video in the series. This again is a multi-part series. How much money do you really need? And we're going to go what's underneath this, which has to do with fulfillment and happiness and peace and joy and other kinds of things that's underneath all of this. But for now, I just want you to think about that. Maybe if you haven't ever done this with a workshop or an exercise or a coach or whatever else it is, again, I'm going to invite you to do an exercise. If you know me, I don't usually have people do exercises like this, but it's what's coming out in these videos, so it's what's coming out. How much money do you really need? Maybe you could take a look, not fantasy bullshit, not chartering a private jet and all these kinds of, big, luxurious, fancy, big, expensive things. But if you just maybe take a look at what are the kinds of things that you really, are wanting to do right now that you really think would make a big difference in your life? That in the way you're looking at it would make you happy, that would enable you to relax, that would enable, and just kind of get an idea, how much money does it really take? Because there's so much stuff out there. There's so much stuff in the media, the success courses, the marketing courses, everything that's out there that are basically saying, whether it's direct or it's not, more, bigger, bigger, more is better, bigger is better, less money is worse. We're going to get into all these kinds of lies, illusions, and stories and myths in later videos in the series. All those kinds of things. More is better, less is worse. Prosperity is better, all these kinds of things. But for right now, how much does it really take? How much money? How much money does it really take? For as you see it now, and it's filled with lies, illusions, and stories and distortions, but just as you see it right now, how much money does it really take to fund a lifestyle that, as you see it now, I used to call it in my first book, from the limited perspective of your conscious mind. And that language was very carefully chosen, from the limited perspective of your conscious mind. How much money do you really need? Or maybe you could do the exercise that I did, or some variation on the exercise that I did, of take a look. If you're doing pretty well, or your money is okay, you'd like more, but it's okay, go back and take a look. How much did it cost to really do all of the things that you wanted to do? In my language, it's not cost, it's expression of appreciation. Expression of appreciation in the form of money. Again, if you're not aware of the teachings that I share, you'll see something on the screen right now. You can register for a free training that'll ground you in all of that. But just take some time to get clear. As best as you can, we're going to mess with all of this as we go through. We're going to push on all of this as we move through the additional episodes in this series. But for now, I just want you to ask yourself the question, how much money do you really need? Not how much would you like? Not how much is somebody's telling you the sky's the limit, you can make anything you want. Think big, shoot for a big number. Now, forget all that crap and all that stuff that's out there and all the screaming and everything else. Let's get grounded, let's get practical, and let's say for you, to get out of what you might be perceiving as struggle, to have there be a little bit more ease, whatever, for you to be able to do a bunch of the things like take a vacation or shop at a particular store or something. What would it really take? What's the number? And we can work from there. Again, I'm not asking you to set a goal. I'm not asking you to try to manifest or attract or create anything based on this. I just want you to start to take what's generally, as I mentioned in the first video in the series, the last video, what's generally vague and unclear and murky and blurry and filled with fantasy and bullshit from places, stuff that we've learned, in personal development, spiritual development, manifestation, whatever it is. And start to chip away at that kind of stuff. And as I mentioned last time at the beginning of this video, to start getting clearer and clearer on what's really going on, what would really make a difference. And we're going to get more and more clear on that. I'm going to share more and more of how all of this was defined and things that happened with me. And then, as I said, we're going to get to the practical point of, once we get real clear, we have a definition that makes sense, we have a target that makes sense, what's the practical how-to piece, how can you actually experience it in your life? But now I just want you to say, I started this out with, how much money do you need? How much money do you really need? And once you get kind of clear on that number, in your mind, as it stands right now, filled with distortions, lies, illusions, and stories, once you get kind of clear on that number, why do you need any more? What's in your mind about that? Not that there's anything wrong with it, not that there's anything bad with it, but just what's in your mind right now? Why do you need more than whatever it is that would be this number of what you think would make a big difference in your life? Practical, nuts and bolts, real, not fantasy crap. And I'll give you an example of something I'll come back to later. But I met a man once who was a friend of a really good friend of mine, a neighborhood. They live in the same neighborhood. I was having dinner with this friend of mine and this other man, an older man. He's retired, very wealthy man, lives in a multi-million-dollar home, has had a lot of luxury in his life, still does in retirement. And we were at dinner, and all of a sudden this deep, deep, deep sadness and pain came over his face as we were talking about some of these kinds of things. And he ended up saying to me how hurt he was and how upset, and that one of the biggest regrets that he had in his life is that he never earned enough money to be able to own a private jet and to be able to travel everywhere on the private jet. He traveled first class, he traveled in luxury, whatever, on traditional airlines, but there was tremendous pain in this man and a sense of failure because he never earned enough money to be able to fund a private jet. And if you could have seen his face, and then, kind of look at the disconnect of it using my language. So we all have this kind of fantasy crap that's gone into our minds about what we need, or what would make a big difference, or what would really, or what's a regret, or whatever else it is. And it's total lies, illusions, and stories, and myths, and bullshit in the mind machine, as I call it. That's not what I'm wanting you to look at. I know you're encouraged to do that all the time, as I mentioned. I'm asking you now, just practical, simple, nuts and bolts. Do two things. One, to the best of your ability, I realize it's hard, come up with a number of what you think it would really take to make a big difference in your life right now, in terms of, if this amount of money, if I could really wanted to do all these things, and attach a number to it. If you're struggling right now, okay, to make it easy to pay my rent or my mortgage, to make it easy to make my car payment, to make it easy to buy some clothes from time to time, to be able to take a nice vacation, whatever it is, I invite you to take a look at all of that. It doesn't matter if it's accurate, and put some numbers to it. Find out what the number is. Again, not the big fantasy, but just that would make a difference based on what you're feeling limited or restricted by, or you've had a desire to do that haven't been able to, whatever. Put a number to it, and then ask yourself and see what pops out of your mind. Why would I need more than that? Why would I need more than that? And that's all I want you to do at this point. Again, this is a journey. This is video 2 of a multi-part series. We're going to come at all of this from different angles. There's a method to the madness. I'm not just throwing out random stuff here. We're building towards an ultimate conclusion that will also have a practical how-to piece, so to speak. But this is what I want you to do for this video. For this week, if you're tracking this that way, of these being released once a week. How much money would it really take to live a lifestyle that would make a big difference to you based on where you are right now? What's the number? And then when you have the number, ask yourself, why would I need more than that? And see what comes out. And then we'll play with it and work with it and transform it and massage it and get into a truthful, with a capital T, relationship with that and everything else as we move further together in this series. So, as always, love it, hate it, pissed off, frustrated. You're really stimulating me, Robert. You're really making me think. You're pushing on stuff I don't usually ask myself. Would I invite you to leave comments below this, wherever you're watching this? Love to hear what they are. And I'll look forward to our next form of contact as this series continues. Again, this is only the second video in a series that I envision going for quite a while, because that's what it's going to take to go where I want to go, take you where I want to take you, as it relates to true prosperity, true with a capital T, true abundance, true with a capital T, and getting into a truthful, with a capital T, relationship with money. Bye-bye for now. See you next time.
If you'd like to get more information on what you just discovered, go ahead and click on the Learn More button that you'll see appearing in a few seconds.